She never thought talking could destroy her life. Not really. To Sarah, words were harmless. Just conversation. Just stories. Just little things people said when they were bored, upset, or curious. Until one day, one sentence changed everything. And by the time she understood what she had done, it was already too late. Sarah was the kind of person everyone liked talking to. At work, people gathered around her desk during breaks. Friends called her constantly. Family members told her everything. She always knew what was happening in everyone's life. Who was struggling, who was dating, who got fired, who was fighting at home. And secretly, being the person who knew everything made her feel important. Not powerful exactly, just needed. If there was silence in a room, Sarah filled it. If there was tension, she talked through it. If someone shared something private, she almost immediately felt the urge to repeat it somewhere else, not to hurt people. At least that's what she told herself. She just liked talking. But life has a way of exposing the things we refuse to control. One Friday afternoon, Sarah's coworker Emily asked if they could talk privately. Emily looked nervous. "I haven't told many people this," she said quietly. "But my husband lost his job last month. Things have been really hard." Sarah's expression softened immediately. "Oh no. Emily, I'm so sorry." Emily smiled weakly. "I just needed someone to talk to." Sarah promised she understood. She promised she wouldn't repeat it. And for a few hours, she meant it. But later that evening, another coworker casually asked why Emily had seemed upset lately. Sarah hesitated, just for a second. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Don't tell anyone." But apparently her husband lost his job. That should have been the end of it. But careless words rarely stay where they're spoken. By Monday morning, nearly the entire office knew. People whispered when Emily walked by. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Sympathetic looks followed her everywhere. And then someone made a joke, a quiet one, but loud enough. Emily heard it. Sarah still remembered the look on her face. Humiliation, not anger. Worse, betrayal. That afternoon, Emily walked directly to Sarah's desk. Her eyes were red. "I told you that in confidence." Sarah's stomach dropped instantly. "I didn't mean for everyone to know." But the moment the words left her mouth, she realized how weak they sounded, because intent doesn't erase damage. Emily stared at her for a long moment. Then she said something Sarah would never forget. "Some people break trust with actions. You break it with words." And then she walked away. For the first time in a very long time, Sarah had nothing to say. That week, things changed. People stopped opening up around her. Conversations became shorter, colder. When Sarah entered break rooms, discussions shifted. Friends stopped telling her personal things. Even simple interactions felt different now. And slowly, the thing she loved most about herself became the thing she hated. People may forgive careless words, but they rarely trust the same way again. At first, Sarah became defensive. "She's overreacting. I didn't mean any harm. Everybody talks." But deep down, she knew the truth. The problem wasn't one mistake. It was a habit. She spoke too quickly, too often, without discipline. And now life was forcing her to see what that behavior actually cost. A month later, Sarah learned something painful. A management position had opened at work. A position she wanted badly. She had experience, good performance reviews, strong communication skills, but she didn't get it. Instead, the role went to someone quieter, someone people trusted. When Sarah asked her supervisor why she wasn't chosen, he hesitated carefully before answering. "You're talented, Sarah. But leadership requires discretion." The sentence hit harder than she expected. That night, Sarah sat alone in her apartment replaying everything in her mind. Emily's face, the whispers, the distance people now kept from her. For the first time, she stopped blaming everyone else. And in the silence, she finally heard herself clearly. A person who cannot control their mouth eventually loses control of their life. The next morning, unable to sleep, Sarah wandered into a small neighborhood park before sunrise. The air was cold, quiet. An elderly woman sat alone feeding birds near a fountain. Sarah recognized her immediately. Mrs. Evelyn, a retired teacher who used to live in Sarah's apartment building years ago. Mrs. Evelyn looked up and smiled gently. "You look troubled." Sarah laughed softly. "That obvious?" The older woman nodded. "Pain usually is." Something about her calmness made Sarah sit down. At first, she only shared small details, but eventually, everything came out. The gossip, Emily, the lost promotion, the loneliness. When Sarah finally finished speaking, Mrs. Evelyn stayed quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Do you know what your suffering is trying to teach you?" Sarah looked down. "No." The older woman folded her hands carefully. "Your life has become noisy because your mouth has been undisciplined." Sarah felt the words land deeply. Mrs. Evelyn continued softly. "People think words disappear after they speak them. They don't. They travel. They multiply. And eventually, they return." Sarah stared silently ahead. Loose words create wounds that disciplined silence could have prevented. Mrs. Evelyn pointed toward the still water in the fountain. "Watch the water." Sarah looked confused, but obeyed. The surface was perfectly calm. Then Mrs. Evelyn dropped a tiny pebble into it. Ripples spread outward in every direction. "One small action," she said quietly. "Far-reaching consequences." Then she looked directly at Sarah. Words work the same way. Something inside Sarah finally broke. Not pride, not embarrassment, illusion. For years, she thought talking made her valuable, but now she understood something deeper. Wisdom is not measured by how much a person says, but by whether their words create peace or damage. Not every thought deserves a voice. Mrs. Evelyn then gave Sarah a simple system. "Before you speak," she said, "ask yourself 3 questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it yours to say?" Sarah listened carefully. If the answer is no to even one of them, silence is usually the wiser choice. Maturity is learning that silence can protect what words would destroy. The change did not happen overnight. In fact, the first week felt almost painful. Sarah constantly caught herself wanting to comment on things, wanting to repeat things, wanting to fill silence. But now, she paused. At work, she began listening more than speaking. When coworkers gossiped, she stopped participating. Sometimes the silence felt awkward, but slowly, something unexpected happened. People began relaxing around her again. Conversations became genuine, not performative. Trust returned slowly, but it returned. Months later, Emily approached her quietly after work. "I heard you've changed," she said. Sarah swallowed hard. "I'm trying to." Emily studied her face carefully, then finally said, "I can tell." And for the first time in months, Sarah felt peace instead of shame. Wise people do not speak to impress others. They speak to protect what matters. A year later, Sarah eventually earned a leadership role. But this time, it happened differently. People trusted her, not because she talked the most, but because they knew she could be trusted with what should never leave the room. And that became her new identity. Not the woman who knew everyone's business, but the woman people felt safe around. Your words shape your reputation long before your success ever does. Life had taught Sarah something painful, but necessary. A careless mouth can destroy relationships, opportunities, and trust faster than most people realize. But disciplined words can build a life people feel safe inside. So before you speak today, Pause. Ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it mine to say? Because one sentence can damage a life, but one disciplined decision can change yours. If this felt like home to you, subscribe. And if someone came to mind while listening, share this with them.